totally.
Yeah, grab the phone.
Here we are. We're live. She's almost ready.
It's not in my head, though.
Her hair's almost done, we promise.
What is up, everybody? We are back with the Starbuilt Grow Show, and we have a very, very special guest who we'll introduce here. As you can see, this lovely and talented and beautiful woman getting ready just for you guys to embark on an entrepreneurial journey from a whole different perspective. So we've been really looking forward to this episode. Yeah. We've been actually talking about this for a long time. When we first started the show, we were kind of waiting for the right moment to do it. So here we are.
This is the moment.
This is it. This is our moment.
You know why?
So,
okay, go ahead.
as usual, we're ready to dive in here, but say what's up, say hi, let us know where you're from, give us a thumbs up. And yesterday was National Emoji Day.
Really?
Yeah. So throw some emojis. Let's see what kind of emojis we can get going on this show.
What's your favorite emoji? What's your favorite emoji?
I don't know. I think it's just good old fashioned thumbs up.
The thumbs up.
Oh, really?
Simple. I don't know.
Oh, I like the smiling face with the stars lately.
Okay.
I don't know why.
I like the fire.
It's fun.
The fire. That's kind of played out, though.
Is it played out? Okay.
How about the poo emoji?
You guys get that? I'm played out. Played out.
Yeah, it's played out.
Yeah, I'll use it tomorrow.
All right, we're getting started. What is up, everybody? What's up, Alex? Oh man, I can't really see, so we'll jump on and comment as usual later.
I'll be checking it out too.
So if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in there throughout the show. As always, we really want to talk about the entrepreneurial journey here, and this is a cool opportunity because
we got Kansas City. What up, Alex?
This beautiful young lady here has actually been putting up with me since before I even launched my roofing company that we refer back to so many times. So she has literally been there through the entire journey, from all the ups and downs, and she also came from a background of kind of being around that sort of environment even growing up. So we're really excited. We're going to get into it. Nick's going to go ahead and
for sure. Let's
get the announcement done.
We got some people saying what's up, though. We got an emoji, too. So we got Jim in North Dakota. We also got Kansas City. Yeah, we got they both put an emoji, actually. We got a thumbs up and the sunglasses one.
Jim Weaver, what's up, man?
Yeah, that's what's up.
Why aren't you giving this tip early?
All right. Well, hey, guys. We are live with episode 18. 18 of the Starbuilt Show. 18 episodes, guys.
Nice job, guys.
But
18 times, and Facebook hasn't kicked us off yet.
Yeah,
we're doing good.
So we're a little bit late, right? So were you actually doing your own Facebook Live show?
I was doing my own Facebook Live.
Look at that.
And I was late, and I really thought I would be on time.
But I'll say
I
this:
was not.
you crushed it though, and so that made me even more excited to have you on. So that was awesome.
Awesome.
So Chrissy, you've been there the entire journey. Journey.
Pretty much,
right?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. At least the
past
since
I started the roofing side of things.
Yeah, right.
9 years, yeah.
So how did you guys meet? When did you guys meet?
So we met through a mutual friend, and it's kind of crazy because we both went to UNC. Mm-hmm. Never ran into each other, but knew some of the same people, but never knew each other. I was really good friends with the mutual friend that was his roommate at the time. So I'd been to their house, never met him. I don't know how that happened. It's just kind of one of those things, like when it's not meant to be at the moment, it's not meant to be, right? It's totally.
I remember one night I actually came home, and I just remember I came home late. I don't know. We'll not talk about what I was doing. I was in college. I came home late one night, okay? Yeah. And I see some random chick who happens to have really long legs. Yeah. hanging out up over the couch. And I'm like, I had no clue who she was, and just went downstairs and went on with the business. Yeah. It wasn't until years later that we correlated that was her. She actually
slept on your couch.
She stayed on my couch, and we didn't even know it.
That just happens. But it's just like a test to everything happens for a reason at the right time. Like, I might not have liked him in college. He was a frat guy. I was anti-sorority, fraternity, not for any
She was too cool for school.
I was actually a nerd.
No, you were a nerd?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're both closet nerds.
We're both closet nerds.
Are you guys both closet?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm a little bit more outwardly. But then we went to this mutual friend's birthday party downtown at Sports Column and just kind of hit it off. I literally went and stood by him, and we stood back to back, and I was like, let me just stand on my tiptoes and make sure I'm taller than you, or you're taller than me. Because I had to have someone taller than me. So
yeah, that was crucial. I was like, please, come on, let me pass the test.
Yeah, right.
Am I tall enough?
Yeah.
And I made it past the test.
And ever since, it's just continually passing tests.
Yeah. And I've been trying to get her to get rid of me ever since. And it just keeps sticking around. It's great.
Yeah, I don't know why.
So, all right. So, when you met Randy, was he always talking business? Could you kind of tell that he wanted to do his own thing from the beginning, or?
Yeah, totally. I mean, our first date, I think we literally talked about everything in our lives, like our families, our past, like everything. And so that was actually a common ground because my dad owned his own TV repair shop for 20 years. Family-run business. Like when I was younger, I used to answer phones and file. And so we kind of right off the bat had that kind of connection of I grew up in a family that is very entrepreneurial, and this is the road that he was going down as well. And actually, when I met him, he was working for a different roofing company, right? Yeah. Yep. And so he hadn't quite, I hadn't been introduced to his side of starting business quite yet when we first met. But we definitely had that kind of connection. Like I knew he was into starting businesses he had in the past.
So did that kind of help you get prepared though, coming from a family of entrepreneurship? Was that like, all right, I know what kind of expect, what it's like, you know, what kind of person you have to be successful in? For
sure. Like I just remember being younger and like my dad would only close maybe once a week. So I knew that the time commitment is just like, it's, you gotta be committed. Like my dad would close his shop on holidays. And I mean, that was it. So I think having grown up with that and knowing that, I kind of already knew that that was going to be in the cards a little bit.
Thank you. Patience.
And it is in the cards,
So, okay. So now you're going to start your company.
Yeah.
And so you give Chrissy a call, or are you talking, like, what was that moment? Do you remember it was like, hey, I think I'm going to do this thing?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I talked about it since I was 12, that I was going to start a business. And obviously we were close, so I talked all about, hey, I'm doing this. So yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. She didn't know me that well at the time. I was starting just as we were like dating.
Just as we started dating.
And I was like, she's like, okay, cool. She didn't really know any different. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, we're actually a business and things are happening, and okay, now we're, the relationship's going as well. You know what? You know what's crazy is from our first date, I borrowed money from my roofing owner to pay for that.
Really?
Yeah. I literally borrowed money.
I did not know that.
Look at that.
I was working for another contractor. I was broke. Like I was completely trying to reset my entire life.
Yeah.
So crazy enough, I was like, hey man, I got this date on Friday night. I just started like 2 weeks ago. You know what I mean? And ever since I've been funding dates. No. I'm talking about for other salespeople.
Oh, I was
I'm talking about for other
salespeople. I offered to
salespeople.
buy the popcorn, right?
No, for other salespeople. And ever since then, it was like, I know what it's like to kind of come up from that and learn and just kind of be really hungry. But hey, you got to do what it takes. You got to get cash flow going one way or another.
I did not know that.
So I had to do what it takes.
Look at that. I was about to say, so how did
make it till you make it?
How did you balance starting a business and growing a new relationship? I feel like that's maybe Chrissy should answer this one.
Do you remember about that time when you started Elite?
Oh, sure. Let's talk with her about it. Well, my quick answer to that is she lived in Fort Collins. I lived in Denver. So naturally, she worked. She had her own thing going, and I had my own thing. So it was kind of nice to. A lot of times you jump into a relationship, and within minutes you're spending every waking moment together.
It changes really quickly.
We always had a little that separation. We've always had, okay, you do you, I do me, and then we come together and do us.
Yeah.
So early on, it was kind of it just happened that way. So we'd only see each other 2 or 3 days a week. So the rest of the time it was just all in work. So
the distance was actually big.
Yeah, it actually. I think
it was huge, and it wasn't like super long distance either. It was like hour and a half, like not even. And so I think it was perfect. He's right. Like for us to still have our own space. We didn't want to jump into like anything serious. I mean, I think we both knew that it was kind of going in that direction, but we also both didn't want to have it completely consume us at the time because we did live in 2 different places. But it definitely, I think that was a huge benefit for us living in 2 different cities for that first year.
For the first year, and then you guys come to Denver from there, or what?
He was actually started. I think you started Elite in 2010. Is that right?
Yeah, we launched the Elite brand in 2010.
Yes, and I remember when they got their first office. And it was really cool, like seeing where it was and where it came, and it was definitely like a stressor on our relationship. I think at first, because it was like looking back now, like I couldn't even imagine like the work that had to have gone into it for him, like from his perspective, and just being completely, I don't know, you had to have been completely like overwhelmed. Had to have, I feel.
Oh man, yeah, you're wearing every hat, you got to pay every bill. And you never knew the times that it was like, I'm not getting paid this week.
Yeah.
We're just gonna have to really. Don't worry about it. We'll get paid next week. I'll go sell some overs.
Yeah.
And there was many a times, and there was times that it didn't affect us, or she didn't even know that it was. That's, you go through it, you know. You go through like really tough decisions. Like, do you eat or do you work? You know?
So were you able to keep that stressor out of the relationship for the most part, or was it?
I think so.
We did a pretty good job. I mean, we had a little period where we kind of took a little break from each other for like literally a couple months.
Yeah.
And then I feel like things started to settle down with getting the business started. I think that had a lot to do with it. Like, honestly, like
so too.
I feel like just, he went from working for another roofing company to kind of building, I don't know, you had kind of another little side company that you had there, and then started Elite Roofing. And that was just a big step to just go right into it. Like, I think it was a lot to build, to start building.
What was it like when I called and said, hey, I'm starting a roofing company?
Sure, go for it. All right, cool.
She didn't believe me. She was like, oh, whatever.
Whatever, like, that's
I'll
cool.
see you working at serving tables in a couple months.
No, I didn't think that.
Yeah. So what about during like the struggles, like the failures and stuff like that? What about those processes? Were those pretty tough to deal with as a team, or how was that?
I don't know. I mean, I know, like, I saw him go through a lot with like business partners in the very beginning, way before what it is now, you know, and I saw different ups and downs with things happening within the company that, like, honestly, my heart hurt for him, like, because it was really crummy stuff that he was going through as a new business owner, like, and it just blew my mind because, like, integrity is very much one of my core values and one of his core values. And unfortunately, he was in situations with people where they didn't have that same value. And so I had to see him go through just being deceived by people. I mean, really, like. Yeah,
it was tough.
Yeah, it was really tough.
And you know, and I don't want to, you know, it's not really anybody's business, but everybody goes through it at one point or another. Like, I talk to a lot of people individually, and it's unfortunate that in business and in roofing, there's just so many people that I don't think it's their intention to rip people off or to do things that are like scrupulous. How is it? Is that right? Do things that are really bad. Try to use a big word. and it just it's sad. It's sad because, like, a lot of us can relate to that. Almost a lot of people that I talk to on a regular basis as I'm coaching and working with people, a lot of people have been really screwed over and really scarred and really hurt by what other people have done. And it's affected them majorly financially, you know, and it's one of those things that the greed side of business and that side of life is really ugly. You know, it can be brutal. It can be a really bad situation.
So what about balance? You know, how you balancing everything? I mean, now you guys got, you know, multiple businesses, you doing multiple things. I know you're staying really busy. There's you guys have 2 kids now, a dog. So what's going on? How are you guys balancing it?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's not easy. I think we both could see that.
No, it's a challenge for sure.
But I think we've both been really good at trying to check each other to be like, hey, family time. You know what I mean? And I think that's having that open communication. Here's the thing. We really stink at communication when it comes to planning stuff, like our calendars, but we are very good at communication when it comes to putting each other in balance and letting each other know when, okay, you know what, we're just not spending enough just FaceTime together or with our kids or with whatever. So I think we've been open about that together. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think it's been awesome. I mean, believe it or not, I mean, a lot of you see us on social media and whatnot as we kind of get 2 different things going, but believe it or not, like, we strategically like plan out, all right, well, it's time to shut it down. Like, once this is over, we'll do a couple comments and we'll literally not look at our phones for a couple hours. And then come 9:30, 10 o'clock, we'll look at them again. You look at the patterns, you see the comments, you see interaction and that sort of thing. So we kind of spread that sort of thing out. So now we're going to take a couple hours and just focus and hang out with the kids and, you know, get the kids to bed and just focus on the family for a little bit. So little increments like that is helped us a little bit, but Hey, comment below. We're all ears on finding balance, because that's by far one of the
for
biggest challenges that I think all entrepreneurs face and or marriages when you're in like a heated entrepreneurship, like, you know, high growth, you know, high intense, you know, business type of situation. It's a lot.
Oh, it is a lot. Like, especially after maternity leave, it was kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, he's like, I'm not going to be able to take either one to the babysitter or daycare. That's you. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to get up so early. Like, it's hard because he's just so busy right now. And it's funny because our seasons are off, right? So I work at a school. So summers are kind of my downtime. Summers are like his go time. So, but yeah, going back from maternity leave was, I think, kind of an eye-opener for both of us, being like, okay, how do we balance, like, hey, we have the kids to take care of, and then just taking care of the house and eating and not eating out too much. Like, just the whole thing was just kind of, we had to play with it a lot after we had Mila. Like,
it's kind of a constant battle. And we're, as the kids grow, we got to constantly make adjustments to what we're trying to accomplish. And we're getting prepped and ready as the kids grow old enough to start going to sports and crap like that. That's
you guys are gonna add another one out here.
Hey, that's my assumption. I've seen it through my family and whatever else. That's when life changes, and you're just, you know, trucking kids around to sports. But I look forward to it. I can't wait for that. Hopefully, I'll be retired by then.
But my buddy Julio out in Waco, Texas is on
What's
here.
up, Julio? What's up, everybody? How you doing? Bill, Debbie. Hey, Debbie, look, Debbie.
Like your mom?
Your cousin, Debbie.
Oh, my cousin?
What's up? We have a lot of family in New York. What's up, New York?
They're in South Padre.
They're in South Padre right now.
Jealous.
So say hi to everybody for us. We miss you guys this year. Yeah, we have both family all over the country. From California to New York. It's pretty cool. So hello across the country. That's why we always like to ask who's there. Where
I kind of feel like we're on vacation right now with this heat, though. I mean, it's been great.
Nice.
Our AC's finally working again. I feel, oh my God, thanks for good Lord.
Oh no, I thought for the first time she was really gonna leave.
That was it. That was
because the AC was broken for like 3 days.
That was
trying to take care of 2 kids in an 85-degree house.
Yeah, I feel like that was the
Mama
deal.
was not happy.
And you didn't hold up your end of the deal.
Yeah, we had to get it fixed.
Yeah.
And of course, me being, you know, I'll try to fix it first, baby. Give me 2 days. Those 2 days, I apologize.
I didn't know that part. See,
I tried to fix it.
Not knowing that everyone is booked out for weeks.
Yeah, right.
Apparently, other people need AC.
I stuck around. It's good.
You worked it out. You worked it out.
We're good.
Oh man.
We're good.
Well, hey, let's what about some tips? I want to start with you, Chrissy. So, what tips do you have for the spouse of an entrepreneur?
So I think the first thing is patience. And that's, I feel like a quality that, like, humility aside, like, I feel like I'm a very patient person. Like, I'm an educator. I feel like I have to be very patient in the career choice that I made. And so with him, I have to be super patient because, I mean, things come up all the time, right? That we might not have planned for. And it's just one of those things that's like bittersweet, right? So his schedule is very flexible in the sense that he's his own boss, right? He doesn't have to put in time off, right? Like, he could just he has flexibility, but at the same time, with that comes, he's still working at 8 o'clock, right? So I feel like I have to be very patient and flexible. I guess flexibility would be another thing. I have to be flexible because I'll be like, you're still working. It's 8 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, I get that. Hey, it's getting a little late.
In the middle of the afternoon, he might have paused for a sec and hung out with us for like 30 minutes. So it's kind of, I mean, it's a balance. Yeah. So just super flexible. Like, I've had to be super flexible and super patient because you just never know what comes up spur of the moment. And you're just like, you have to be accommodating to whatever happens.
Yeah.
So patience and flexibility seem to be the 2 big ones.
Totally, I think so. Yeah.
I got lucky. She just naturally is very patient. Very patient with our kids, with me. It's like having 3 kids sometimes. But yeah, no, I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
Because it probably wouldn't be, you know, it wouldn't work.
It's hard sometimes.
It's hard
But yeah.
You know, it's really hard to shift gears sometimes.
Yeah, but definitely have to be patient for sure.
Okay, so what about a wife that doesn't feel like she's not getting enough time right now? Like, maybe she feels like the husband's too much. That's deep, but like, I feel like that, you know, it's an important thing for sure. Like, how do you go about handling that properly? Like, think about the entrepreneur is just always on, right? So how do you go about that effectively rather than creating an argument?
I feel like we've gotten better at it, but there's still, like, definitely times when it's just like, okay, like, I don't want to sound like this, but putting him in check almost. Like, I know that sounds terrible to put it. I don't know another word for it. But, and he even tells me, he goes, thank you. Like, I need to be put in check sometimes because sometimes I forget that I'm not as, like, attentive or as just, like, in the moment. You know what I mean? Because his brain goes, like,
always going.
Always going. And I talk about, like, my little makeup biz with him, right?
That's
even
fun.
school and stuff with him. He
Yeah.
talks to me about his, but sometimes it's like, okay, shut off. Like, can we just sit and, like, watch a movie? Like, can we just sit and watch Mickey and the Roadster Racers together and actually watch instead of trying to...
We literally watch maybe less than 3 hours a week of TV.
Yeah.
Like, literally, we were just looking at the bill, like, why do we even have TV? You know, we're just always doing stuff. And
but sometimes, but it is that putting
you got to force those times that you're just like, hey, this is our time.
Yeah.
You know that you're going to get less time.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a given, right? An entrepreneur works 80 hours to avoid working 40. There's a lot of truth in that because your mind is always working. So you have to force, just like a great entrepreneur, is really good with time management and they're really good with blocking schedules and sticking to blocked out times to where they're accomplishing certain tasks. You just have to block time in. It's sad to say, but you kind of got to block time in. Like, this is your family time. This is this time. This time is focused. And then you do that. It almost helps you psychologically tune everything else out and stay focused for that short period of time. You're getting less time, but if you hyper-focus that time and make sure you're always doing something or creating memories with your family at all times, like every Saturday we're trying to do something. She does a great job with this. Is doing a museum, doing the zoo, doing something just about every Saturday because that's our day. Or Sunday, that's like our family day. Always trying to do something, not just sitting around the house hanging out. You know, we don't do that because you only get so many moments in life that you get to do those sort of things. So we're always trying to create memories with the shortened amount of family time that we actually have.
And I think from like any spouse, it could be a husband too, but like from a wife especially, especially when you have kids in the mix, right? Because then that little bit of blocked out time becomes family time, right? But then there's not always like me. It's like, hi, I'm your wife. How you doing? Like sometimes though it is, and I'm sure a lot of you married couples or dating couples know this. Like sometimes you just go about your day and you go in passing, right? It's just you kind of have your routine, whatever. And it's hard sometimes. And I know, like, I think we need to do a better job. I go, Nick, don't get in the middle. No, but it's just the reality though, because I know he's really, again, this is his like peak season right now. Yeah. And so it is hard sometimes to be like, hey, hi, I'm here. You know, but I mean, you know that that's going to come on the downswing too, and then it'll get better. And it'll be like, oh, we have time for a date night. Or we could sit and have a conversation without having to deal with a kid. So I think when you throw kids in the mix, it becomes a lot harder because that time you allocate becomes all together time instead of we got to remember this. Yeah. Because without this, we wouldn't have had this. Right. You know what I mean? And we try and talk about that too. And I feel like I've been better about being more vocal. So you really, I would say communication too. I mean, you have to and I've gotten better without being like, God, I wonder if he's,
and that's what I tell her. The reality of it is sometimes I'm so laser focused on something. All I need is just to know, like, hey, you're forgetting this, or just subtly. You did a good job with that as well. Like subtly letting me know that, hey, reel it in. We gotta cut it off. Let's shift gears and focus on the family. Let's focus on us. Like reminding me, kind of helping me, kind of reel it in is definitely good. You know, that's been really good for us.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. So one last thing I really wanted to dive into though is, all right, because I like the key takeaway thing, right? I'm trying to push the key takeaways people can actually implement. So I want to hear from both you guys one thing that you guys have worked on or implemented in the last maybe year or so, especially with having another child, that has helped progress, the busy relationship.
I'm gonna close. You go first.
This is a tough one too. This is a tough one.
I think. So I'm very much like a passive aggressive person, right? Like he knows this too. Like I will let stuff build and build and build. And if I get angry, I just start crying and like, he's like, where is this coming from? And I'm like, well, X, Y, Z, you know what I mean? Like it builds up. And so I feel like over the past 9 years, we've been together 9 years. Yeah. 9 years that we have been together. I was really bad at that at the beginning. like I would not tell him how I was feeling. And I would sometimes, like when he would go, he was working out of state and stuff, I would feel so lonely. But I'd just be like, no, I'm good, you know, and I kind of brushed it under the table, but those feelings like built and built. And that was especially when he was traveling a lot, you know, back when he first started and stuff. But I think over time, the communication of being like, hey, get off your phone. Hey, it's like, we're having dinner right now. Let's sit and look at each other. Like, and so I think just being more like,
be vocal.
Just,
almost,
totally being vocal, because I
Open
wasn't
communication
before.
without like.
And so I've gotten way better. Like, and so I'm not passive aggressive anymore. I'm just more direct, just kind of like, hey, we need to do this. Like, and sometimes it's a little bit harsher and sometimes it's not. But I would like to say that he knows that I'm coming from a good place, not just like a.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Like I encourage it. Like,
You're a terrible person.
I've told her, like, I would rather
Yeah.
you just like tell me right then as it's happening,
Totally.
so I can make an adjustment and try to improve and get better, just as a husband, as whatever.
Totally.
So
So I would say, like, for sure, just you have to let them know. Like, you have to, because here's the deal. He is very sorry.
Oh, here it comes.
And I don't mean this in a bad way, but because his brain is constantly going. He drives me crazy sometimes. He just comes with idea. And I'm like, oh my God, stop with the ideas. If you take on one more thing. But because he's got so much going on, sometimes can be like a little oblivious to like, oh gosh, I didn't realize that I wasn't or was doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
legit. And so.
That's what I was trying to explain earlier.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just sometimes I'm just so in the zone
So in the zone,
that I just like need to be like, hey, do this.
Totally.
Oh, okay, cool. Then I'll focus.
And then
Then I'll just zone in on that. I don't fall in on that stuff.
And I think you really have to, when you do that too, though, you have to like, and I've had to work on this, you have to like rein back the resentment.
Yeah.
Because there's been times where there's been a lot of resentment, and not for, like, he does this for our family. And I know that, so he does it for our family and his friends and his family. Like, honestly, that's why he does what he does. And so I always have to tell myself that, but sometimes it's really easy to fall into that resentment piece. And you don't want to resent what they're doing. So I've gotten there, and then it just makes for like anger and like stuff like that. So it's just, if you let it build up, that resentment builds up. And you don't want to have that resentment, because really it's coming from a good place what he's doing, right? Obviously. So yeah, I would say that would be, take that.
Good one.
That was good. I like it.
That's helpful.
So be vocal. Say it.
Yeah. Well, this corresponds, but and I know this. I'm terrible at it. It's one of my greatest weaknesses, and I focus on. And I've actually been actively focusing on this stuff. You know, because I'm in a role now where I'm coaching and that sort of thing. So it all comes down to listening, becoming a better listener. Like I've always been a really bad listener. I'm always a thought leader, like expected to be vocal about everything, like coming up with, I'm the one who comes up with all the ideas, or it's expected of me to do this. So I'm like always in idea mode, in create mode, in get better, in increase whatever I'm working on mode, that I don't just take a second to just listen and soak in what's happening around me. So I'm focusing really heavy on doing that, and that corresponds directly with all aspects of life, including especially with the wife.
Yeah.
Just listen better.
So Chrissy had to be a little more vocal.
And I gotta listen.
You had to listen a little bit.
Yeah, because sometimes he'll hear, but he won't listen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He'll repeat what I say, and I go, cool, you heard me.
Oh, yeah.
But did you actually listen? Like, I've been pausing lately. If I see him on his phone or on his computer, I just pause what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm good at the nod. No.
Yeah.
I can only focus on one thing at a time. It's ADD. I'm sorry. It
It
sucks.
is, I know.
This is what it is.
Oh, man. Well, cool, guys.
All right, we're wrapping up.
Yeah,
This
she's
is awesome.
wrapping it up.
Babe?
Is that okay?
No,
I didn't throw you under the bus with me?
You guys still cool?
I
didn't like mess
Yeah.
something up here. Did
We're
I?
gonna go.
That was awesome,
roundhouse
guys.
each other now.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to peace out and go see my friend. Well, actually, I'm going to take care of little monkey man because he just woke up. Our dog
So,
needs attention.
make sure to
Our
check-
dog needs attention.
Share this out with your friends. Check out theroofingacademy.com. Check out the Starbuild Grow Show on Facebook. Our little kiddo just woke up. That's perfect timing. So have a great night and God bless. Take care.
You're one, okay. Hi. Come here. Hi. It's okay. Come here. Is that okay? Does that go?